Forget the fairy tale. They called it love. But what if I told you Hollywood's perfect facade, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's red carpet romance, was masking a secret so toxic it forced her escape? This wasn't about conflicting schedules. This was about something ugly. Insiders are finally spilling the iced tea. Nicole has been playing the role of the perfect wife for years, but she's officially done. Buckle up, because the truth about Keith is rewriting their entire history. The world bought their glamorous country charm love story, hook, line, and sinker, believing they could conquer anything. But behind the scenes, the reality was apparently colder, quieter, and far more heartbreaking than any of us dared to imagine. Whispers claim Nicole Kidman was never just a wife. She was the actual foundation of Keith Urban's entire kingdom. From single-handedly managing his emotional meltdowns to quietly funding the early stages of his career. She was the life raft in a storm he never dared admit existed. Nicole was always the calm in his chaos, one insider dramatically told an outlet. But even the calmest waters will swallow you whole if you stand still too long. The warning signs were subtle, like Keith's studio sessions becoming a permanent address, and Nicole's smiles looking painfully choreographed. The inner circle knew. They weren't drifting due to fame. They were tearing apart over control. Nicole, a global icon, had become a frustrated extra in a story that was supposed to be hers. During the final years, anonymous sources allege Keith's creative drive curdled into a dark obsession with perfection. One so-called former assistant claimed he would call the Oscar winner in the dead of night, demanding to know why she hadn't posted about his album or skipped a gig. This wasn't passion, people. This was full-blown image management. So while Keith Urban was out there beaming for every camera and talking about how blessed he was, Nicole Kidman was internally imploding. The bigger his star got, the more she vanished from his life story. Insiders confess Nicole started playing hooky at industry events, not because she was busy, but because the mere thought of faking that happy glow made her sick. Imagine getting fully glammed up, only to feel like the cameras were just waiting for him to walk past. Then, the whispers began. Talk of Keith's friendly connections with fresh-faced singers, names mysteriously appearing on his studio roster. Class act that she is, Nicole never uttered a public word. But behind those mansion doors, the silence was absolutely deafening. Sources split. Did she unleash her fury, or just quietly check out? Either way, the damage was done. But the real tea the tabloids missed was the Arctic chill of their emotional disconnect. Friends confirm Nicole desperately tried to resuscitate the corpse of their marriage. We're talking therapists, counselors, private retreats. But Keith's focus was firmly fixed on a void. He was chasing validation from a world that didn't care about his wife. A source close to Nicole lamented. And then came the mic drop moment, the one nobody saw coming. Nicole stumbled across messages. Not the scandalous kind, but the cold, corporate, calculator-fueled exchanges that proved her husband saw love as nothing more than a profitable PR strategy. That realization didn't just hurt her, it vaporized her. When she walked, she didn't throw a fit, run to the tabloids, or play the victim card. She left in a deafening silence that spoke absolute volumes. And while Keith kept touring, spinning tales of mutual respect, Nicole was quietly constructing her freedom, piece by piece. But here's the kicker, because it gets darker. Insiders allege Nicole's exit wasn't just heartbreak. It was a strategic retreat. She knew everything about Keith's dirty little financial secrets. The rumor mill is churning, dolls. Because one deep-throated source screamed that Nicole Kidman knew something that could ruin Keith Urban if it ever saw daylight. We're talking shady investments, undisclosed contracts, and hush-hush payouts to keep certain stories permanently buried. Nobody knows the exact dirt, but everyone close to Nicole agrees she didn't just walk out on a marriage. She evacuated a ticking time bomb. After years of silence, the goddess has finally started dropping breadcrumbs. Subtle, elegant, but unmistakable clues that this divorce runs deeper than a busy calendar. In her most recent interview, when asked about love, she gave a slow, knowing smile and delivered the line that broke the internet. Love should never feel like work you're not paid for. Was that a calculated dig at Keith's reliance on her? Was she finally admitting the marriage was just psychological, emotional, and financial unpaid labor? The fans are now a full-blown detective agency, decoding her red carpet looks and Instagram captions like they hold the secrets to the universe. Every single photo now carries the triumphant weight of a woman who finally escaped years of quiet manipulation. And while Nicole found her peace donating millions to humanitarian causes and empowering women, Keith's carefully curated silence only grew louder. His publicist tried to swat down the rumors, and his fan base put up a valiant defense. But you simply cannot ignore the timing of Nicole's glittering rebirth. When one person starts glowing like that, it's the universal sign they've finally stepped out of a crushing shadow. And that, my friends, is where the story twists. As Nicole Kidman's life exploded with post-divorce success, Keith Urban's polished image started showing deep, jagged fractures that no amount of smooth guitar riffs or charming interviews could plaster over. The man who once crooned about loyalty was suddenly dodging questions about his past. Behind the scenes, and behind that fake smile, Keith was reportedly scrambling to suppress truths Nicole had walked away from, but absolutely not forgotten. Let's rewind the tape. Tabloids called the split mutual respect. Insiders snort. That was code for catastrophic damage control. The divorce, according to a legal source, was perfectly timed, financially surgical, and emotionally brutal. We're talking NDAs, sealed records, and hush money. Yes, you heard me. Hush money. A former tour accountant even leaked a message claiming huge sums of money were shuffled from one of Keith's accounts right into a mysterious, private foundation just before the separation. It wasn't illegal, but it sure smelled foul. And while Keith Urban kept serenading packed stadiums, Nicole Kidman was sitting on a mountain of documents. The kind of evidence that could make industry eyebrows rocket to the ceiling. But here's the savage plot twist. Nicole never needed them. She didn't have to threaten. She didn't have to expose. She simply took a seat and let the glorious, swift hand of karma do all the dirty work. And oh, did that witch fly. Within 1 year of the split, reports started surfacing about Keith's severe creative exhaustion. Then came the messy misperformances, the random tour cancellations, and the sudden vague public apologies. Fans just thought he was burned out, bless their hearts. But insiders, they knew the truth was far heavier. Crippling guilt and a panic-stricken fear of imminent exposure. One Australian journalist even alleged Keith confessed privately that losing Nicole wasn't about losing love. It was about losing control. That quote, naturally, was never confirmed. But it was the gasoline that reignited the entire wildfire. Was Keith Urban, country music's golden boy, actually a fragile master manipulator whose grip had finally slipped? Meanwhile, Nicole was radiating. No cryptic posts, no shady interviews. Just pure, unadulterated freedom poured into foundation work and killer film projects. People weren't just seeing cosmetics, they were witnessing liberation. And then came the second viral interview. Dressed in fierce white and seated across from a famous host, Nicole was asked about closure. She gave a soft, almost menacing laugh and delivered the line that vaporized Twitter. Closure is when you stop pretending you were ever happy in the first place. The internet didn't just explode, it performed a full cultural meltdown. Twitter went instantly nuclear. Reddit threads dissected every word, and every gossip vlog slapped a Nicole exposes Keith thumbnail on their feed. That one sentence became an event. But buckle up, buttercups, because the real circus started when an anonymous source, allegedly a defector from Keith Urban's inner circle, leaked email exchanges between the star and his manager. These panicked, desperation-soaked messages reportedly laid out chilling containment strategies. Specifically how to shield his foundation and the divorce settlement from certain personal matters. Real or totally fake? Who cares? In the fame game, perception is the painful reality, and the public perception was absolutely brutal. Keith's once loyal fan base split right down the middle. One side ferociously defended him, screaming that Nicole Kidman was manipulating their sympathy. The other side immediately branded him a gaslighting villain. The narrative had completely flipped, and for the first time, nobody was buying the country gentleman routine. Even his industry peers started discreetly backing away, avoiding public endorsements like the plague. But here's the most delicious part the masses missed. Nicole wasn't seeking revenge. She had already claimed her redemption. Friends insist her decision to leave was her ultimate mic drop moment. Not because she needed to escape Keith, but because she finally needed to find the real her. she realized she'd been carrying the dead weight of his dreams while hers were tragically gathering dust. One confidant allegedly clarified, leaving him wasn't a loss, it was a resurrection. And in a beautiful poetic slap to the face, the very same tabloids that once hunted her were now hailing her as Hollywood's reborn queen. Her project soared past box office expectations. Her humanitarian work went globally ballistic, and every time she hit the red carpet, she radiated a peace Keith couldn't buy. But that peace, honey, was forged in fire. Because while Nicole Kidman found her magnificent voice, Keith Urban was reportedly haunted by his past actions. Whispers say he was frantic, reaching out to every old contact, even sending desperate messages to mutual friends, practically begging to speak to Nicole privately. Sources close to her say her response was a resounding 0-decibel silence. She absolutely doesn't look back, one of them stated flatly. She wasn't looking back at the hurricane she just survived. And yet, just when the internet thought this saga was finally settling into glorious final silence, Nicole Kidman dropped the third-act bombshell. Not with words, but with an epic strategic power move. In a stunning announcement that left fans and critics gasping, Nicole unveiled a massive charity partnership under the exact same foundation Keith Urban had allegedly funneled all that suspicious money into years before their split. Coincidence? Or was the Queen quietly reclaiming what was rightfully hers? Social media went full FBI. Twitter threads, TikTok receipts, and podcasts dissected every single timeline and financial overlap. The narrative instantly crystallized. Nicole didn't just leave Keith Urban, she outsmarted him. Because let's be real, the juiciest revenge isn't the loud, messy, televised drama. It's building a billion-dollar empire right on top of the trash he tried to destroy you with. And just when we thought she'd close that chapter with a polite but firm slam of the door, the universe pulled Keith right back into the spotlight he was desperately trying to avoid. The year 2025 rolled in, and Keith Urban's meticulously guarded silence shattered. What came spilling out stunned everyone who assumed the drama was officially dead. It started with a single black and white Instagram post. A microphone, captioned chillingly, "Time to tell my side." Within minutes, his comment section transformed into a digital war zone, flooding with demands for, what side? Was this the truth Nicole had been hiding? Or was this Keith's frantic, last-ditch attempt to rewrite the whole damn history? 3 days later, his truth, or at least his version of it, dropped in an exclusive interview. Spoiler alert, it was not the redemption arc anyone was rooting for. Keith looked physically ill, his voice trembling as he muttered, "I was never perfect, but I wasn't the villain either." He weakly tried to claim the rumors about secret foundations and manipulation were simply distorted by people trying to sell a story. But when the interviewer aggressively pressed him about those alleged containment emails, Keith completely dodged, smiling this weird, awkward smile and muttering, "Some things get lost in translation." That pathetic phrase alone was all it took to reignite the entire media wildfire. Every single news outlet, from the grubbiest gossip blog to the stiffest talk show, screamed headlines like, "Keith Urban dodges questions again," and "Nicole's silence speaks volumes," but the Queen remained absolutely mute. Not a tweet, not a single comment, not even a sly red carpet eye roll. And darlings, her silence was a thunderclap louder than any interview Keith could ever give. Because while he was scrambling to save face, Nicole was simply living. She was honored at a massive humanitarian gala for her mental health work. And when the host mentioned her resilience, Nicole just smiled and delivered the ultimate one-liner. "Sometimes peace is the loudest protest." The crowd absolutely lost it. That quote instantly became the internet's anthem, printed on every t-shirt and plastered across every influencer caption. And poor sweet Keith? He officially became the ghost haunting the background of his own tragic story. But here's where the shadow really started to lengthen. Just weeks after Keith's pitiful tell-all, a terrifying new set of leaked documents dropped online, courtesy of someone claiming to be a former assistant. These files allegedly contained frantic communications between Keith's team and his PR puppets, detailing exactly how to divert attention from his financial mess by aggressively highlighting his emotional struggle post-divorce. He masterminded a pity campaign. The assistant even attached a draft press release, which shamelessly included the line, Keith Urban battles heartbreak and mental strain after losing the woman he loves. Was that line even remotely true? Maybe, but the internet was officially done buying what he was selling. Viewers dragged him across every platform, labeling it the most calculated sympathy stunt of the decade. Memes flooded feeds, showing Keith holding a tiny guitar, while a hurricane labeled Nicole's success raged in the background. Sponsors immediately got cold feet and started pulling back, and his record label issued a vague, nervous statement. They were bracing for impact, and just when everyone expected Keith to hide forever, he made one final, desperate public gamble, a dimly lit solo performance at a major awards show. It was supposed to be the epic comeback. Halfway through, he introduced a new, whiny little song called "The One That Got Away Twice." The lyrics? A little too specific. She built my dreams, then walked away. Took my silence, turned it to fame. I lost her love. I lost my name. The crowd offered polite applause, but social media was ruthless. Keith's confession instantly trended. Not out of emotion, but because everyone saw the transparent manipulation. The song was his last-ditch effort for public empathy, and it was a spectacular failure. Nicole Kidman's supporters immediately weaponized the song, calling it emotional manipulation disguised as pathetic music. Even Keith Urban's die-hard fans started whispering, maybe, just maybe, Nicole was right all along. But hold on to your hats, because there was one final, spectacular twist nobody saw coming. An explosive investigative journalist expose dropped, meticulously charting the financial timeline of the Urban-Kidman separation. According to the report, during their final year, substantial charitable contributions from Keith's accounts mysteriously landed in shell organizations. The exact same shady shell organizations Nicole later meticulously restructured for actual humanitarian work. She didn't just walk away. She cleaned up his toxic financial mess. The internet instantly vaporized again. Podcasts titled Nicole's Silent Revolution and the Fall of Keith Urban popped up everywhere. One genius viral comment summed up the entire saga perfectly. Keith played guitars, Nicole played chess, and honestly, that might be the only truth that matters. Because while Keith was pathetically attempting to control a narrative, Nicole had mastered the ultimate power move, the art of not needing to speak at all. Her silence was never weakness. It was pure, unadulterated power, and in Hollywood, that's the ultimate loudspeaker. Months later, Keith quietly slunk off social media. His final post, a sad little picture of a sunrise captioned, "Here's to new beginnings." Meanwhile, Nicole was giving a keynote speech at a prestigious UN summit, where she delivered her final, devastating blow. "Sometimes," she said with calm, chilling conviction, "you have to lose everything to realize you were never missing anything." That line broke the internet for the final time. It wasn't just about Keith. It was a rallying cry for every woman who's ever been dismissed or overshadowed. So maybe the real reason Nicole left wasn't money or betrayal. Maybe it was simply freedom, the kind that doesn't need an explanation, only evolution. And as the world watched her stand taller than ever on that summit stage, one thing became painfully clear. Keith may have been a temporary song, but Nicole, she was the entire symphony. Because in the end, the person who speaks last, and with the most peace, speaks the loudest. Now, after the leaks, the pity campaign, and Nicole's magnificent transformation, the burning question remains: who was telling the truth? Was Keith just another man consumed by his own fame? Or was Nicole the true hero, finally brave enough to end a story that no longer deserved her brilliance? Let us know what you think. Drop your thoughts, conspiracy theories, and sass below, because this saga is far from over. You're watching Celeb X, where the truth always finds its light. And don't you dare forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more shocking celebrity revelations.